think about it this way. If I didn't take my phone to bed and left it in the kitchen and do it, and there have been plenty of nights I've done that, then I start getting more clarity on what I want from a relationship. Because I'm like, well, if I didn't have my phone, I would want somebody here. So I think I would be more intentional in looking for a partner. I do love myself. So I didn't understand that. But the choices I was making, whether it was who I was dating, how much I was drinking, how much I was spending, the actions were showing me different. It was just like I felt like I fought the battle of just trying to get people to believe me.
Right.
Proven nostalgic things, whether it's visual, smell, sense, like music, gives you dopamine hits. And it actually helps regulate and calm your nervous system because it's a familiar pattern. And so your body starts immediately feeling safe while you get a dopamine hit.
Welcome to the Love Means Business podcast. On this show, we celebrate love as the beautiful, sometimes dangerous, and always powerful force that it is. I'm your host, Emily Green, an agency founder, business consultant, professional speaker, mom, wife, and survivor of toxic love. From the highest of highs to the lowest of lows, on each episode, we will explore true stories of dark love and how sometimes our personal struggles can lead to our greatest professional passions.
This episode is sponsored by the Love Means Business speaker support and referral community. This is a go-to space for thought leaders who are ready to get booked, get visible, and grow their impact. Inside, you'll find curated speaking, podcast, and media opportunities posted daily, a network of mission-driven peers from all over the globe, and monthly events designed to help you grow with strategy and support, not burnout. If you're ready to be seen, heard, and hired, join us. Visit emily-green.com and check out the Love Means Business page, or email me directly at emily@lovemeansbusiness.com for more details. Welcome.
Thank you.
To the Love Means Business podcast.
It does.
I'm really excited to have Stetson Patton here. I feel like we already know each other so well. I have to remind myself that people listening and watching will not know you as well. So I need to make sure, keep that in mind today. But we're going to be talking about your professional and your personal journey today. So are you ready to dig deep? Get little dark love, little, in that sphere.
Just don't make me cry. Don't make me cry.
I have tissue somewhere if you do. But you're also known as Socially Stetson.
Yes.
So that's kind of like your Sasha Fierce Beyonce name.
I never knew it would take as much form as it did, but I walk and people are like, Socially Stetson. I'm like, I'll take it.
I mean, that's pretty cool. I need another name.
Till I don't want to be social. And then people
That's true. If you want an introverted moment, you can't be like, I'm unsocially Stetson.
Yeah, people are like, but you're supposed to be Socially Stetson. I'm like, I don't want to go to this event.
I feel that. Well, you are a social media guru, and you help people effectively and intentionally use social media to grow their business. So currently you live here in Charlotte, North Carolina.
I do.
And you love all things Instagram, social media, also podcast host, speaker, super connector, who loves tequila, Jesus, and singing.
I do.
Did I miss anything of the highlights?
I love my niece and nephews. I'm an auntie.
Aww.
So, best aunt ever. Love them so much.
Aww. All right. Well, we're going to dive right in. So I always like to start kind of like rewinding the tape. Let's go back to where you grew up, your family. So tell me about young Stetson.
Young Stetson. I grew up as a football coach's daughter, and so grew up all in the Carolinas. My mom worked corporate. She was corporate HR, had that like high-powered job. So I loved like her kind of that boss lady skill, because back in the 80s and 90s, women were staying home more. So it was she was the oddball out of the friend group.
Explains it kind of infused into you.
Yeah, to see just that successful woman was really cool. And then having my dad as a football coach, we got to travel a lot. So that's where I grew my love of traveling and sports, because I love sports, and probably my competitive nature just in business and life. but grew up, I think my love for small business came because we would go to all these small college towns.
Yeah.
And so it was a lot of mom and pop diners, a lot of mom and pop shops, boutiques, antique stores. And I really got to connect and meet so many small business owners. And so I just fell in love with small business then. Yeah. And so I knew I always wanted to either own a small business, which I did. I'm a serial entrepreneur. I've owned a couple of small businesses. Yeah. And now with my current social media job, I love, like, my passion is helping not the corporate level people, which we could. Mm-hmm. But this,
you have clients of all sizes.
I do. Yeah. But my passion that I love is truly helping that mom and pop brick and mortar shop.
You can just see the influence you have. It's corporate can take a little bit to see like the direct power of social media marketing, but when you work like with the owner, founder of a small business,
so much fun.
Instant gratification. It's amazing.
It is, and just like them wanting to, you know, a family restaurant that's been there for generations. You want that to last and to work.
Yes, absolutely. So when did you start getting into music and singing?
So, as a football coach's daughter, I grew up in church because the Bible Belt. So one, just always kind of singing in church choir. But there were several football games or basketball games on the college campuses where they would need somebody to sing the national anthem or the tape wouldn't work. And my dad, I promise you, 4 years old, was having me, she'll sing it. And at a small college, nobody cares. Everybody just thought it was cute. Terrified, but then I got used to singing and loved it. Kind of grew up singing, and my passion, I thought like Broadway and all the things. And so it's funny now because I, lip sing all the time, but back then was singing. And so I loved it growing up because I thought I was really good at it because people rewarded me for it. People were like, oh, you're so good. So started at a young age, did musical theater, choir in school. It was like my favorite subject. Hated everything else. It was all music. And I've learned that now about myself too. Probably a little bit of ADHD as well. When you get hyper focused on something and you can't focus on anything else except for what you love. And that was the only thing that I loved learning and practicing and doing was music. Whereas like English, math, some of the other could have cared less. So the story I told myself was that I'm not really good at anything else. I'm only good at this. This is what I do.
Did you have a certain genre of music that spoke to you?
I loved all of it. Broadway is probably my favorite.
So like the musicals?
The musicals, stuff like that. I did love like Latin and Italian opera. So those were fun for me. Because they were challenging. They were really challenging. I used to practice my scales going up and down, and I actually remember auditioning for our show choir every single year I was in high school and not making it. I didn't make it. I would every single year would get first alternate and just being like bummed. Yeah. And just not understanding. And I would get put in because somebody would always drop out or whatever. In my senior year, I sang instead of singing the typical piece that I thought would get it, I did something completely different and sang the song from My Fair Lady. Where she's like, all I want is a room somewhere. And I did it with the accent and the costume and everything, and I got it that year. So my senior year, amazing. I made it, which was fun.
That's awesome. I feel like singing also brings so much joy. It makes you feel so happy. And I'm not going to try to put words in your mouth, but I also think that makes sense why you've loved social media, especially the videos, because you get to get into the music scene so much more. People that don't do social media content management and creation, it is a lot of music. So talk about that. How has that helped you with that part?
How has growing up with music helped you with that? I feel like I have an ear for what's going to trend. Some of the earworms that get stuck in your head, I know that for me, if it's going to get stuck in my head a little bit, it's going to go viral. This is going to work. And so I think I have an ear for some of the beats and how to put it with some of the videos. And part of my frustration is watching people edit videos that don't really go with the music. I'm like, And so it's a pet peeve of mine and maybe a little bit OCD. But when you work with musicians and stuff who are working with the beats and stuff like that, that's important. The rhythmicality of everything is important. And
Yeah.
so there is a rhythm of social media. There's a rhythm of flow of what does convert to watches, views, listens, and stuff like that.
That's
There's
interesting.
a full rhythm of the video editing with the music, with the transitions.
Yeah.
Like, if it's off, people notice a little bit.
Yeah, you can definitely, but when it hits just right, oh, it's so good.
Oh, sweet
It's like
spot.
the best. Okay, so when you were younger, so what age exactly? So around 4 or 5, it sounds like you started singing,
Yeah.
and you got this love of it, and it continued into high school, and then let's get into college, Stetson in college. Talk to me about what happened with music and kind of walk me through those years.
Yeah, well, actually, it was my senior year of high school. I was also a cheerleader. My music teacher would always tell me, you are going to injure your vocal cords. Like, it's going to happen. Because he thought, like, with the yelling and screaming, I was like, no, you don't understand. Like, I barely yell. I use my diaphragm. I save my voice,
Right.
But there was just a freak accident at a basketball game one day where the girl's hip bone just hit me wrong.
Oh, no.
And it didn't, like, sever my vocal cords completely, but totally injured my vocal cords. And
Gosh.
I just remember my throat being on fire. I mean, I couldn't talk. I couldn't tell people what was wrong.
Mm-hmm.
Really couldn't talk for like a long time and couldn't really sing. And so
That'd be so hard not to be able to vocalize. Wow.
I remember looking at my mom on the table, like I was in an athletic training room, and looking at her, because when I fell, I hit my head too, so I was knocked out for like a little bit. And when I came to, I couldn't talk. Like, everybody was looking at my head for a concussion, but my throat was on fire. And so I went to some doctors, some special doctors where they put the cameras down your nose, and
That sounds really fun.
they're trying to. It was awful.
That sounds painful.
Doing the tubes in the ears, looking at ear, nose, throat situations. Was put on steroids for a while to heal it, but they had pretty much told me, they were like, "Oh, you'll be lucky if you can talk the same again.
Yeah.
You'll probably never really be able to sing again." And it was awful. And so I did lose all my music scholarships, and so just devastated. I remember talking to one of the music instructors at Furman University, because that's where I wanted to go. My dad coached there when I was little.
That's in Greenville, right?
Greenville, South Carolina.
Yeah.
They're the Purple Paladins, and so I grew up watching them, loved them, and they have a beautiful campus and had a great music program that I had been going to since I was a freshman, practicing so I could get the scholarship together. And I remember talking to the music professor and just saying, like, I'll get my voice back. Like, I'll get it. He was like, I understand, but we can't give you money if you can't do it right now. I just didn't understand. I was like, but you know me. Like, you know me. You know how hard I put in the work. He was like, it doesn't matter, because if you can't sing, we can't pay you to do it. And I just did not understand that at the time. I felt rejected. I felt like so lost. And the other two schools that I had scholarships to, I didn't even want to go to anyway. So I was just depressed.
Like, what's your identity if you don't have that?
Yeah, because like I said, it was the only thing I really loved. It was the only thing that I felt good at. And so, because like I grew up dancing and stuff like that, but like I knew I wasn't the best. I knew that career wasn't going anywhere. And so just really lost, and like, what do you do? And you're 18, you're still a kid. I feel like now as an adult, I'm like, no, they're babies. They're babies.
Yeah.
And so was really lost, and I was fortunate that my dad was coaching at Gardner-Webb University at the time. He said, just come here as tuition free, because he worked there. And he said, take some music classes and see if you could. So I was determined to get my voice back. So I took some music classes in college and could not get my voice back to what it was.
That must have been so scary to not have any control over that and not know, because now you know, but you can't. Back then, you have no idea if you're ever going to get it back.
I didn't really know what depression was then. And so nobody was talking to me about that. There was no really like, we need to talk about this stuff. And like, what do you want? Like, it was just kind of like, okay, here's what you're doing. Here's the plan. Like, we need to do something. Looking back now, I was so severely depressed. And that's when I started drinking. Like, suppressing just like so much stuff. And because it's the loss of your whole future of what you wanted to do.
Right. And your passion, your dreams, like, people, especially if you are a very passionate person, when you lose that, you can just feel like you're spiraling.
Yeah.
Not know where to turn.
And I've seen that happen with so many of my dad's football players. Like, they would get injured, broke a leg. NFL scouts there, broke a leg. Their NFL careers.
Right.
And then they typically have to go to therapy and stuff too, because you do identify yourself as some of your talents and what you're good at. And
I think what's interesting is when we were talking about having you come on and talk about this story, I have had guests and, my own story about dark love and how love can kind of really mess with your head and mess with your life. But what's interesting is when you really love something, like you're good at, like whether it's singing or like with running with me when I got injured in college, that was my first heartbreak.
Yeah.
And it feels very similar to heartbreak with a romantic relationship or somebody like a dad or a mom or something like that. So how did that depression, that heartbreak of losing your voice, then what happened? You had the depression happen, but what was kind of the ripple effects with your relationships and your life after that?
Well, it's funny because like I literally lost my voice, but subconsciously I felt like I lost my voice too, because I lost my identity, and so I wasn't speaking up as things. Like my confidence, when I say that it truly, like my confidence level, like I just did not know who I was anymore. My identity was gone, and then I was mad and frustrated, also sad, but did not know how to process emotions, did not have the cognitive tools and skills to like be able to do that, and it just wasn't as popular back then either.
Right, yeah.
And so it affected a lot of areas in my life of me just feeling not good enough, not worthy enough, just, let me just take opportunities I can get, sort of thing. Living a very life.
Yeah. What about love, like romantic love and dating? How did it impact that at all when you were trying to date in college, or, talk to me about that.
Yeah. I feel like, yes, absolutely, because when you feel like you're losing your feeling of self-worth, identity, who you are, your confidence, that affects everything. And then add alcohol and partying on top of that.
Right.
Now, I didn't date a lot in college because being the football coach's daughter, people did try to stay away, which was probably in hindsight really good.
Yeah.
But, put myself in situationships that were probably dangerous and not good. And just that feeling of unworthiness of I don't deserve this, and I'm not sure, where all those feelings came from. Now, because I've worked through things, I know that. But it's funny that losing my voice really did all the minor choices, the small decisions that I made, I was making because of that, because I was sad and depressed on that. And so I was just making myself more sad and depressed subconsciously, which was not great.
Well, I feel like that was a huge defining moment, obviously, in your life when you lost your voice. Now, you don't have to talk about another defining moment, but I know that you shared something with me. Is that something you want to talk about on this podcast?
We can.
Okay. Would you say that was another defining moment that kind of may or may not have happened if you hadn't been in the state that you were from losing your voice?
Well, I blamed it. So the situation you're talking about was a sexual assault my freshman year of college, and that impacted a lot of the rest of...
I remember you sharing that. That's why I wanted to bring it up. Because there's people that are going to listen or watch. This might have happened to them. Yeah. And I think it's important to be able to share that this does happen. Yeah. And kind of what led up to it. Yeah. And then how you've empowered yourself, how it's affected you. Yeah. How it's changed your voice.
I know. Yeah, I'm happy to share if it helps anybody. But a sexual assault when I was 18 by one of the football players who was being recruited for the NFL. And so word got out. I mean, I got myself out of the situation. The situation could have been 10 to 100 times worse than it was. I was able to at least be strong enough to get myself out of the situation. So it was more of an attempt. An attempt. And I do want to make that clear because I know some women have it a lot worse.
Yeah.
And so, but nobody really believed me on campus. And a lot of the football players believed him.
That's more of a restricting of your voice.
And it was.
Oh, yeah.
And it was just like, I felt like I fought the battle of just trying to get people to believe me.
Right.
Believe my side. And that, it was just when people are kind of like, I don't know, there's two sides to every story. And I'm like, not really. Like, here's what happened.
Yeah.
You know? And so what happened is he did get kicked out of school. And thankfully. And some other women came up and admitted that the same thing had happened to them. So I do know that that was for the best for them to be able to.
And if you hadn't come forward, they maybe never would have.
Yeah, and I didn't come forward. It definitely got told.
Oh, okay.
You know? So like I got drunk at parties and told some other girls who were like, we should probably let someone know.
Yeah.
You know. Because I was scared of him. I was scared to walk
I was
scared to walk to class. I was scared to see him. I was scared to go to the football games. Like it affected my entire just like daily routines. But then after he got kicked out of school, it affected a lot of things too, because kind of the rumors that started were like, well, don't mess with her, like you'll get kicked out of school. And you know, when he's telling everybody it's consensual and stuff, then you know, the guys typically believe that. But it was another area of my life where I feel like I should have stood up for myself more. I should have spoken more and not cared so much about what other people think. But here's why I got mad. I got so mad because I was at that school because I lost my music scholarship. So I blamed, like, didn't really know that I was so mad. Yeah. Still at what happened to me my senior year of high school, because it would have never happened if I hadn't. So it all ties back together of like what I've been processing through therapy and stuff.
Yeah, therapy is so nice, right?
Yes. Thank goodness.
Well, thank you for sharing that. I know that that's hard. I think it's also just like, this is just me like telling you what I see with you. Yeah. A lot of people see you as this sunny, socially Stetson, happy all the time. Yeah. It's interesting when you peel back layers. A lot of people have things that have happened to them. Don't assume no one's ever experienced something horrible, you know? Yeah. And I know even for me, like I try extra hard to be positive and happy because I have been through some stuff. Yeah. And people are usually pretty shocked when I'm like, oh, wow, you've done that. You seem so happy. And I'm like, well, it's working. It's doing a good job.
And I think even hearing myself, like, trying to make it less than what it was. Yeah. Like, I just caught myself just in saying, oh, a lot of girls have had it worse.
You're minimizing it. Yeah.
I'm minimizing what happened, and I think I did that for so long. But if I don't actually look at it, it still affected a lot of areas of my life. So I have to take it for what it is, instead of saying like, oh, it's not as bad as other people could have it. But no, it was bad for me. And so I think we see that, and sometimes as humans we judge and rank like, oh, well, that wasn't that bad because this happened to me and it was bad. Right. So like, at least you did. And people say, well, at least this didn't happen. At least this. And I think that's one of the worst things we can say to people.
It does, because it makes you feel like you should just be quiet then, because it wasn't that bad.
Yeah, and that's what I got told a lot back then. I was like,
Tiffany Vandermark was my first guest, and she actually, forget exactly what she said, but it was something along the lines of like, don't categorize it, or don't try to say something was worse than something else, because that happened with her marriage and the abuse that she had. She would see other women that had been abused, like they'd been stabbed or shot, and she's like, well, I wasn't stabbed or shot, but it's still, then you're minimizing it, and then you're almost telling yourself like it's not okay to be upset about this, right? Like you're telling yourself to shut up in some ways.
And I was told that by a lot of women, like, and the females, you know, who were like, okay, the men didn't believe me, but a lot of the females, because I've learned now, they have their own hurt on situations on trauma, but like, oh, well, you're fine.
Well, thank you for sharing that.
You're welcome. I hope that does help somebody.
I do too. I always hope that at least one person listens or watches that maybe is dealing, well, I don't hope no one has had that happen, but if you have, you know, that this helps kind of show what you can do with it, and you'll be fine. You can survive and thrive through these things. So what happened? So how did you get out of this depression? How did you get out of this losing your voice Talk to me about that, the success redemption story of how you got out of all of that.
There's not a great one, Emily, so I hate to say that. I think it's more of daily wins, daily moments. Like, there is not like a defining moment that I can say.
But that's real.
This
that's
is when it all changed.
Yeah.
Oh, this happened. This is when it all changed for me. I met Mr.
Sunshine
Right,
rainbows.
and he came around, and he restored my faith. And no, it's been a process. It's been, I'm 41, and so it's been a growing, learning process. Some of the things that I am doing, being more in tune with myself, my emotions, feeling my emotions more, trying to understand where they come from. I think you and I had a conversation, like, I was triggered about something. I was like, okay, why was I triggered by what our mutual friend said to me?
Right.
That, like, literally had nothing to do, but when I looked at why I was triggered, it was because I didn't feel heard, which I'm like, oh, well, now that I know a trauma, and I used to never relate with the word trauma because I'm like, I've never really experienced true trauma.
And people throw that word around so much.
They do. It's a popular, like, buzzword, and so I like to call them little wounds. Well, what little wounds did you have throughout life that, like, kind of still affected you? Like, little wounds can still add up to, like, okay, you scrape your knee after riding a bike. Well, now you know you're not going to ride the bike that fast anymore. You don't just keep doing it. And so we get these little wounds that teach us and wire our brain how to do stuff. So I'm having to learn now, I have worked with a relationship coach, so I feel like my friend Mara, she's helped me a lot, just like to actually process some of these emotions that I'm going through, and realizing how to get that voice back, how to have some of my confidence back and stuff. Because I will say, if you would ask me if I felt confident, I would say, yes, I'm a confident woman. And I am in certain areas of my life. But there are other areas of my life that I don't feel confident in. And there's a difference between worthiness and confidence, like self-worth and self-confidence. And the book Worthy by Jamie Lee Kern is really good. And that helps me realize that too. Is just, okay, well, I might be confident, have a lot of self-confidence, but there's a difference between self-worth. And even though I felt like I had self-worth, because people would tell me all the time, oh, you just have to love yourself. And I'm like, I do love myself. So I didn't understand that. But the choices I was making, whether it was who I was dating, how much I was drinking, how much I was spending, the actions were showing me different. My actions and choices I were making were showing that I didn't value myself, even though I thought that I did. So it was a disconnect between my actions and what I thought.
Interesting. Because, they tell you to look at that with other people, like outside of yourself, like, listen to their actions over their words. But do we do that for ourselves?
Right.
That's good. That's a really good nugget to pull out of this whole conversation. So one of the things you and I have found laughter talking about is dating.
Oh my gosh.
And normally I don't talk about that on here. Normally we get so serious, but because I love talking about it with you, what are some things in dating that you have found that are kind of, I don't know, maybe like lessons you could apply or share with people?
Yeah.
It doesn't have to be a grand lesson or anything like that. But do you have it?
Yeah, because the biggest lesson I've learned this time around dating, because I swear I'm like serial dater, because I get in relationships, got out, but don't anymore. I don't relationship hop. I've learned.
I was the same way.
And so now I date, and instead of saying like, is this the one? Is he my husband? Could I see myself marrying him? Like, those conversations aren't going on in my head anymore. It is, when you go out on dates with people, it's collecting data.
Okay,
who is this person? Who are they? And it's okay to like hold myself back. I think the ADHD in me does like overshare, and I get super excited. So then I'm like, oh my gosh, he's so fun. Like, whether we work out or not, and I'm a people person, so I'm like, oh my gosh, like we would have so much fun together. But I read, I don't know if it was in Jamie's book or where it was that I heard this, but it was so good. It said, are you having fun on the date because you're fun?
Oh.
Or are they actually fun?
That's a good one.
And that I learned when I took a step back to watch. I was creating the fun because I'm a naturally fun, outgoing person. I want people to have fun in situations. I want people to enjoy themselves. And so I feel like I'm always looking around to make sure people are having a good time. And so dating now, if I take a step back to see if they let me have fun without me controlling the date. And I didn't realize how much I was doing that. Like, I feel like I can talk to anybody about anything. I'm a connector. So I've met men from Russia and I'm talking to them about the furniture business in Hickory. Like, I connect and try to connect with people. But that's actually hurt me on dates because I can connect with people. And so then maybe they end up liking me, like, oh, she's the one. And I'm like, no, did we really connect, or was I just trying to connect?
Right.
And so, but it was interesting to me, like, are you actually having fun or are you creating the fun? And so that has been good advice for me dating right now. To see certain situations, talk less, listen more. And so, and also taking it for what it is. I've had my heart broken, you know, and so you do invest your time, 8 months, a year, you know, talking, and then it's not going anywhere. And then it's just kind of that self-worth and boundaries thing, but also clarity, having clarity on what you want to. And so right now I'm fine with just dating, getting to know people, collecting my data of what do I want, would I spend my life with this person. And I have learned this year, I can't date just a 9-to-5er. Somebody who clocks in, clocks out.
They don't get what you do.
They don't, and I've always kind of dated that, and that's been a pattern. So for me, I'm kind of like, okay, well, this is the pattern I need to disrupt.
That's interesting. So I used to get like dating app fatigue. You've heard of compassion fatigue, right? Like healthcare workers get that. I feel like I would get that, but it was like in the dating realm where I would just have to take a break. I would get so overwhelmed with the emotional roller coaster that is dating. I mean, I'd have people, we would talk for 2, 3, 4 weeks, even on the phone, and then ghost. Just be gone. And I'm like, you can't say anything? Like, I've invested 25 hours into this, right?
Well, and I think as entrepreneurs, and this is something I realized, a pet peeve of ours probably is time efficiency.
Productivity.
As entrepreneurs, we're like, don't waste our time. How can we be the most efficient with our time? And I think I've learned other people don't care about that as much.
Because their time isn't money, their salary.
So for me, and I'm not on dating apps. I don't know if I will get back on them, but when I was on there, or if I were to get back on them again, I don't think I would spend 2 weeks even talking to a guy. If they haven't asked me out on a date by like the third conversation, like I feel like it's not going anywhere, because the man that I would want is going to ask me out and take me on a date. They're going to be more direct because they also want to get off the apps.
Yeah, and it's like, just, what, are you just wanting a talking buddy? Are you wanting to actually, like, meet me? Are you even real?
And that's the thing, most people don't have clarity on what they want, and we talk about that in business. It's hard for me to work social media with somebody if they don't have clarity on where they're going.
You can't be successful.
It is hard to be successful. So if you don't have clarity on what you want on the dating apps, which is part of the reason I got off, because it wasn't fair, because I was like, I'm not really sure, because some of these men are like really wanting to get married right now, and I'm like, but then why am I on a dating app if I don't want that? And so I had to like figure it out for myself, because I caught myself getting on it, just swiping like I was a game of Candy Crush. Like, I caught myself doing that, like for dopamine hits.
No, same, And
I was like, if I'm doing this, 99% of the people on there probably are too, and that's why the people who are looking for something real are getting frustrated on them, because the majority of men that I've met on there are great men, great guys, and I've learned a lot through myself through each of these relationships too, but they're unavailable. They don't want to commit, but neither do a lot of the women.
It's true. It's both ways. It is definitely both ways. I met my husband on Tinder, so we were success, I guess, from that. I say I guess because he didn't like me the first date, and we actually stopped talking for like 2 or 3 months.
Oh my gosh.
And then reconnected, and then ended up working. But it made me think, like, how many times had that happened where you didn't have that first amazing date with sparks, you know, the Pegasus flies, or not fly, is it Pegasus fly?
Yeah. The Pegasus, horse.
Like, flies down, you know, and he's like a white knight. I don't know. Not even that I'd want that. That'd be weird. But, you know what I'm saying. So, but how many times have we, like, just let something go, and it could have
Right.
been magical. So it
Right.
makes you think about it. Yeah.
Yeah, I think because we are addicted to dopamine hits right now, and so because
sure.
of phone, the way society has made us right now, we are addicted to dopamine, and so I teach in my membership a lot, like dopamine detoxes. How can we dopamine detox? Because watching Netflix is dopamine, those hooks that they binge, because at the very end they're giving you a spike of dopamine,
Right. Yeah.
and you want that to continue. Our phones are constantly like commercials, ads, like everything we do right now. Food right now is like truly processed to how to give you like dopamine. So when you can dopamine detox, you realize more of what you want, you get more clarity,
Yeah.
and it helps. And so I feel like if the dating world and the dating apps did more of the dopamine detoxes, or realized what's giving them the dopamine,
Yeah.
because that's the only reason people have affairs and stuff too. They're getting a dopamine hit.
Right.
And so learning more about how to manage your dopamine levels, why you want them, why they're triggering you, how to give yourself your own dopamine hits in life. So for me, it's like dancing. Like if I need a good dopamine hit, it's like instead of drugs or social media, I can turn on some like nostalgic good music, and proven nostalgic things, whether it's visual, smell, sense, like music, gives you dopamine hits. And it actually helps regulate and calm your nervous system because it's a familiar pattern. And so your body starts immediately feeling safe while you get a dopamine hit.
That's really interesting.
My rabbit hole.
Yeah, so you are immersed in the dopamine haven or heaven of all social media. It's like hit after hit after hit. But so what are your favorite things about social media, and what are your least favorite things?
I have more least favorite things than favorite. So
We can high five on that.
Yeah,
I'm so burned out with social media.
and that's the thing, I think most people are, because they don't realize they're dopamine crashing.
Yeah.
So that's what it is.
It's like overload, overstimulation, I think.
And people, it's given people awareness of their lack of self-control. Because we just scroll and scroll and scroll, and we want to get off. We don't want to scroll that much, but we can't stop. And
but maybe we'll see that thing we've been waiting for.
Or we're just filling a void. And so the things I hate about it, I'll start with that and end with the positive, what I love about it. But like what I hate about it right now is the fact that so many people are just on it and addicted to it, like truly addicted to it. I won't go too far down the dark rabbit hole of how I would never let any child or teenager be on there now.
That's for sure.
But that's another episode because that is just the darkness. I guess that's on there, the evil that's on there. Bullying, so engagement is up on YouTube, but only because bullying and hateful comments. So just know, when I look at those statistics, that's depressing.
Yeah.
And so and to see that so much more when I see people commenting on people's looks, like they can't change. They can't change their head size,
Right.
And they're just, people are like comparing. It was a true story. Like people were just bashing this girl. She's never going to be able to change that. What does that do for her? And people don't care.
People have committed suicide from that.
Tons of people. Suicide rates are up. And so it's knowing that. And these corporate companies, they might be trying to do a little bit, but they're also not doing enough. But also, I don't think us as adults are doing enough because we don't have the self-control and regulation ourselves to quit ourselves. So how can we help? I mean, me being one of them, I get caught, even though I know I don't want to. So I try to teach people, and what I love about my business and my message is we take it off your hands so you don't have to be on your phone as much. I want the focus to be on the family. I want the focus to be on real life connections and priorities. So I think if we could just make small daily dopamine habits, like the biggest one for me is don't take your phone to bed, which is hard for me as a single person because I'm like lonely. So it's like my companionship, but also think about it this way. If I didn't take my phone to bed and left it in the kitchen and do it, and there have been plenty of nights I've done that, then I start getting more clarity on what I want from a relationship. Because I'm like, well, if I didn't have my phone, I would want somebody here. So I think I would be more intentional in looking for a partner. So I think our phones are keeping us.
They're replacing relationships in some ways.
They are.
Yeah,
well, and with the AI coming, it's only going to replace it more.
Oh, that's a whole nother.
It is a whole nother
conversation that I thought we would I was going to ask you about, but I don't think we have time.
No.
We would need like a whole 2 hours.
I'll say what I love about social media is the communities that you can build on there, and knowing that you can truly help someone and like reconnect. So I do have a lot of women in their 50s and 60s who follow me, like my mom's friends or women that I grew up with, who they're not getting all the sales stuff. They maybe only follow like 200 to 300 people.
Yeah.
And they tell me how much joy I bring them. They're like, I just love seeing you on there. Like, it is so fun.
Follow her if you don't. She's like joy personified on social. It's amazing.
Thank you. And that makes me happy to know that I may be brightening somebody else's day, but also when I see them in person, I hope that I bring them that same feeling that I'm bringing them on social media. Like, I want to be just as joyful and make them just as happy in person, where some people aren't. They're completely different.
Yeah, that's always so weird to me when I meet someone and they're completely different than they are on social. But I think that brings up my least favorite thing about, I don't like how fake people are. Like, that drives me crazy when I will see, like, you know, they post something and then, you know, like in real life, it's completely different. And but then on the other hand, I'm like, but maybe that's their way of making themselves feel better.
It is.
Right? So
but it's also, people are getting paid. Content creators are getting paid and they're making money. Like, I watched a video the other day and it was like this phone setting up like a Target parking lot, and it was like he like grabbed her hand. They're walking into Target and he grabs her hand and like smacks her butt, and it was like, oh, that's cute. And I watched it and I was like, oh my gosh, that's so cute and adorable. And I was like, but when you think about it, it's like, no, she probably said, here's what we're going to do. We're going to set our phone up. Yeah, you're going to do this. And so when you know it's all staged, then it makes it way less cute.
Yeah, and I think the other thing that I always like, I look at it and I see it differently. You'll see these coaches or these people on there like, I went from making $500 a month to $1 million a month in sales.
Don't get me started on that, Emily.
Oh, it makes me so mad because there's no way to prove that. You cannot prove it. Anyone can say that. Literally anyone could say that. And so it's like you see that and then they're trying to get you to work with them or buy their services or products or whatever. But then the other thing that it does to you, if you're in that sphere at all, then you're like, oh, I'm a loser because I'm only making whatever. So you have to really dissect things and do not believe it. Because most of them, I'm telling you, they're lying.
Yeah, I did one the other day. So I did one kind of like that. Yeah. Like here's what it is. So I showed them, like, it was 6 figures for the year. Now, it's not millions, you know, but that 6 figures
is real.
And it is real. Yeah. But it showed it. But then the next one that I showed it month by month breakdown. And I knew people would, like, pause. So, I mean, I knew the formula. That video has done well for people to pause.
People are interested.
So it showed, we had a $50,000 month. We also had a $200 month. We also, so, like, it's not consistent. You have to, like, work it, and it's not sustainable a lot of times for a lot of people.
Yeah. But, I think that's one of the things I was hoping we would get to. So thank you for letting me have that conversation with you, because there are so many wonderful, beautiful things about social media, but there's also these other things that you have to really be careful with your mental emotional health. It's so scary. So we've talked about a lot of different lessons, but is there one lesson you haven't brought up or, piece of advice that you would want to share today that might help a fellow leader, fellow entrepreneur, maybe someone who feels like they've lost their voice figuratively or actually? What is that one thing that you would want to, like, leave them with?
Yeah, I think truly it's tapping in. I think we all feel like we do know ourselves and we know our voice and we know what we want. I mean, I'm talking about intentional alone time, no phone, no TV, no screen time, a true dopamine detox. You can Google how to do dopamine detoxes to, like, figure out that clarity, because I think so many people are living on autopilot. And the more healing I've done of, like, figuring out regulating my nervous system and stuff like that, the more people I see who need to.
Yeah.
And everybody. It is a lot of people, and dating I'm going to say men in general, I feel like actually want, going back to dating and love and stuff too, they truly do want a lot of the same things. They're just as emotionally triggered as women.
Yeah, they are. They really are, yeah.
And so what I've learned is anything, they're making decisions because they've been hurt too.
Mm-hmm.
And so I don't think there's, people say there's no good men out there, there's no good men out there. And I say that's a lie that we're telling ourselves, because I've met some really good men who, are on the dating apps and stuff too, or married, and they're like, no, they're out there. And so that's given me hope. But so really not listening to the lies that social media is telling you, news are telling you. You have to sit and feel like what you know to be true.
Sure.
And so it's when you're triggered, emotionally dysregulated, sitting with it, do a dopamine detox, and really ground yourself and listen.
I'm gonna look into this dopamine detox thing. That sounds really, really amazing.
It's hard to do. I've thought about holding like a 2-day, just like here in
Retreat.
Charlotte, like just at a house. People have done that right now. I saw a girl do it on Instagram. She had a dopamine detox where she invited all of her girlfriends. They put their phones in a basket the day, and all they could do was read for like the day, whether it was out by the pool, whether it was no talking to each other. They just were there with each other. And at night they shared dinner and were able to talk. And then none of them wanted to get back on their phones. After a full day of just like silence and reading. And I'm like,
pretty incredible.
I think I need that.
Yeah, that needs to happen. How can people get in contact with you if they want to connect more?
Instagram. After I just talked about the dopamine detox.
Yeah.
Dopamine detox. I will say I'm easy and hard to get a hold of, as you know.
I was gonna say, she has multiple lines of defense.
I do. I have boundaries. You do get lots of messages and weed through them. So I can say, I promise I will get to it. It may not be on the timeline that you want, but I promise I will get to it.
Well, thank you for being here. Really, truly. This has been amazing. And thank you everyone for listening and watching this episode. Make sure you subscribe and or follow us on YouTube, Apple Podcasts, and Spotify so you never miss a new episode of Love Means Business. Also, make sure you follow us on social media for more behind the scenes content and highlights. Remember, love is a very powerful force that will impact your life in many different ways. Never let the bad overshadow the good. Keep loving, learning, and leveling up. Till next time.